Hello, it's me, Cara Carouse, intuitive life coach, and today the topic is grief and forgiveness and understanding our soul's ascension. So as I said, am an intuitive life coach, and I work with empaths who are ready to do their deeply healing inner work to improve relationships so they can manifest and co-create a life beyond their wildest dreams. So a big part of the work I do with my clients, my one-on-one clients and my group coaching clients, is process grief. Because in one way or another, we're always grieving and moving through this process of creation, destruction, rebirth, creation, destruction, rebirth. Like, we're always moving through this cycle. Whether it's a version, we're creating, destroying, rebirthing a new version of ourselves, a new version of a relationship, grieving the loss of a loved one, whatever the case may be, we're just always moving through this process. And so as we're moving through this process, well, if you've heard of The Hero's Journey by Carl Jung, then, that's more about that whole process and how we're confronted with an obstacle. We try not to face it. We ultimately have to face it and slay the dragon, and then we're reborn, a new version of ourselves. And so that I find really fascinating, just because we are here in this physical body to be continually growing and evolving. And as we're doing that work, we also look at grief. And a model that I really find very interesting, and obviously I've seen come up in my life and I see come up in my client's life, is this model by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. She wrote a book on death and dying in 1969. So this model has been around for many, many years. And there are 5 phases in this process. And it's not linear. It's not start to finish. I view grief and healing and this process that I was just explaining as a spiral. And so we're always sort of looping back around and grieving, and then we're learning new things about ourselves and having a new version of ourselves be born. So these 5 stages are denial. So we're presented with something shocking, an event, a situation, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a former version of ourselves, as I said, whether it's someone's actual physical death, their soul leaving their body, a loss of a job, you name it. Anytime we're confronted with grief, initially we have denial. We don't believe it. This can't be true. Complete disbelief. And then we get angry. How could they? How could they leave? How could they do this to me? How could I lose my job? How could anger? And anger is sad's bodyguard. That's how I view it. And so really anger just comes up to mask, these deep-seated emotions that we're not quite ready to deal with yet. So anger comes up, and then we start to bargain. Well, what if I do this? Can I get this back? Or what if I change the way I am this way? Could this be the way it is? Obviously, with a person who has passed, we can't bring them back, but there is a certain amount of bargaining that happens around that situation as well. Maybe it's a job, we're trying to get it back, or maybe it's a lover, we're trying to get that relationship back. Anything, we start to bargain. And then we move through depression. The 4th stage of this grieving process is depression. So we move through depression. It can be very dark, and can be very lonely, can be very sad. It's not fun. In my own process of grieving, I lost my grandma 2 years ago, and I wrote about that in my book, Keep Showing Up. It's available on Amazon, and also I've talked about it a lot in my community. And then also I ended a relationship that I was just talking about in some videos, the Trauma Bonds videos, and then also I do speak of it often because it left such an impression on me. I learned so much from it. It was extremely painful, but that happened in that same time frame of me losing my grandma, in a 2-year time frame. And so the depression phase for me, of course, was super uncomfortable because I'm a very optimistic person, and being able to move through those dark emotions was really awful. And it felt very lonely, and I lost people in the process, and I felt like it was this sort of lone wolf phase. So that's depression, and there's so much more to be said about it too. And then we move on to acceptance. And how amazing is acceptance? Acceptance is finally making peace with the situation, with the shocking situation that initially left you in denial and angry. Then we move on to depression, or then we move on to acceptance, excuse me. And it's a glorious thing once we can finally accept the way it is, and we start to pave a new path. We start to see new opportunities, and we start to see a new direction where we're going in our life. So I firmly believe it's necessary for us to understand these stages of grief, to know that it's like a spiral when we're going through it. It's not linear, and we always can sort of loop back around and move through these phases in a different way. And getting to acceptance, coming to acceptance, is a precursor to forgiveness. So we hear a lot of talk about forgiveness and just let it go and just make peace and just, it is what it is and move on. And, all these other phrases that we have to talk about forgiveness. But what we don't really talk about is how important it is that we really accept whatever the situation is before we're able to forgive. And we don't forgive for the other person, we really forgive for ourselves. So it's to not carry the burden of all that. So it's to not carry all that heavy energy. All that heavy energy when we're mad at a situation or holding a grudge or wishing things were a different way or anything like that. It's just taking up space. It's just clutter. It's just making it so all the abundance that awaits you is unable to come in. And it is our birthright to live in joy and live in prosperity and live in abundance. And when we're so caught up in, what could have been, or we're holding on to all the negative stuff, we're not able to fully receive all that abundance. So keep that in mind, okay? So I have just walked Koto. We just had our walk at our park, and I just did my little workout, and I'm getting ready to do my yoga to help me come to acceptance the way things are in my life, make peace with different things, learn to let go, find forgiveness, all of it. It's just always an ongoing process. And I have a really good life, and I'm super, super thankful for my life, but it's like there's always stuff that comes up. We're only human. We're all moving through this process of ascension. We're all moving through. I firmly believe that this soul is in this physical body during this lifetime so that I can learn to grow. I can learn the lessons that I'm presented with, whatever's been triggering me, whatever my core wounds are, whatever my insecurities are, whatever this, that, and the other thing are that show me where my wounding is. And then I can I learn the lessons, I pull out the silver lining, and then I can grow. And then we get to evolve, and we get to expand, and we get to ascend in our level of consciousness. We get to understand that it's not about me, it's about the lessons that I am learning for my own soul's growth and evolution. And I'm here to learn unconditional love. And so along with that comes, we have to, we get to accept to learn that unconditional love. And if there's a situation that you're really wishing was different, or you're wishing someone could show up differently for you, or you're wishing things could go back to being a certain way, please, please, please zoom out a couple frames, a couple lenses from the immediate situation, and understand that it's bigger than you. Understand that this, what you're wanting someone else, how you're wanting someone else to show up, or a position that you had for work, or any kind of dynamic, whatever you're finding yourself having grieved over, understanding that this is your path, this is their path, and that's okay. And that's okay. And there's so many beautiful situations to find yourself in. And do your best to not be caught up in whatever's dragging you down, okay? So I hope this video was helpful for you. I did feel like it was really important to discuss grief and the process of acceptance and forgiveness, and a glimpse into how I feel about soul ascension and what we're here to do. So like, comment, and share. Let me know what your thoughts are about this topic, and I hope you're having a fabulous day today, okay? If you haven't signed up for my text messages, feel free to jump on and do that. Join us. The code to text in is LOVE143, And the number to text in is 585-449-9913. Okay? Peace.